Complex numbers are weird. What is an imaginary number? Let's explore this stuff. Hi, and welcome to Algebra Examples. My name is Dr. Fitch. I have a PhD in mathematics and over 20 years of experience in math education. If you have an example that you'd like to see worked out, please send it to purplefinchmath@gmail.com. Let's get into our question for the day. Today we're looking at an example where we're asked to add two numbers, 3 plus 7i and 7 minus 2i. We are asked then to simplify our answer. Whew. Okay, let's talk about what in the world we were just hit over the head with. These things are called complex numbers. And complex numbers have two parts to them. The first part is called the real part, and the second part is called the imaginary part. In this case, we have I squared is equal to -1, or I is equal to square root of a -1 is another way of writing it. So this thing right here, square root of -1, is called an imaginary number. For a long time, mathematicians thought these were totally made up and there was no way that they could actually exist. But just like the number 2, they are there and they are useful. In fact, they're used in electrical engineering in different places, anything like that. And so we do find that they are very handy to have around. We don't interact with them very often. We are mostly working with real numbers that are just by themselves, usually integers because they're the kindest of them all. But we still want to know how to work with these things. Now, the way to think about complex numbers is you have two parts to it, the real part and the imaginary part. It's like apples and oranges. You really can't smush it any further than this. There's always going to be a plus sign in between them because one of them is the apples and the other is the oranges. And you can't do anything more than leave it like that. However, we have some things we can do, like adding complex numbers. So we have two separate complex numbers here, a plus bi and c plus di. When we are putting them together by adding them, we take our real parts, i.e. the apples, and we put them together and simplify. And we take the imaginary parts, i.e. the oranges, we stick them together, and notice the number that is in front of our I, we can actually add that together and just create one thing with an I tacked onto the end of it. A similar thing we can do with subtracting. We are just going to be taking a minus c, so our real minus the real part, and imaginary minus the imaginary. So group things together. Like goes with like. Let's see what we can do with the problem we have up here. We have 3 plus 7i, and we are adding to that 7 minus 2i. Okay. And notice I put a negative sign in front of this. We can think of this as 7 minus 2i, or if you feel more comfortable, you could rewrite that. That is the same thing as 7 plus a negative 2i, right? So we still have a real number out in front of it. All right, so tucking these two together, we're going to take our real parts, so that is going to be the 3 and the 7, and we're going to add those together. And we're going to put that out front, plus, and let's take our imaginary part and add those together. So the first part is a 7, and then we are adding a negative 2, or in other words, subtracting 2, and we can put our I back on the outside. 3 plus 7 gives us 10. 7 minus 2 gives us 5, and the I is hanging on right there. So there is our solution. Thank you for listening.